This is In Character. I'm your host, Gerard Robinson, Vice President for Education at the Advanced Studies in Culture Foundation. Tonight, Tabatha is joining me. She was part of a group conversation that we had about the role of educators in the lives of young learners and what role that plays. And as you know, we talk as a group and then we do one-on-one conversations to do a deeper dive to learn more about the educators. So Tabatha, thank you for joining.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
You said a lot of great things in our first conversation, and there are people who are watching or listening to this right now, maybe for the first time, others for a second. So here's the first question. Just talk to me about your role as an early childhood educator and what it means to creating a learning culture for your school and for your students.
Well, the culture of my classroom is super, super important to me. And I love to be an early childhood educator. I know exactly how critical this time is in child's life. Brains develop most rapidly between the ages of 0 to 5. And I knew that I would be able to make a huge impact on a child's life by targeting this age group with my instruction. And one huge thing that I focus on in my classroom is that sense of community and empathy for others, and fostering self-regulation skills that help us better not only attend to our own needs, but to be able to create space to be kind and loving towards our friends. And one huge way that I do this is I love conscious discipline. I'm a huge fan of Dr. Becky Bailey, and I really align with her philosophy of creating a school family. So we are all integral parts of our school and our community. We all have something to contribute. We are all helpful, not because we get something in return, but because that's how a family operates.
Absolutely. So for many of us who aren't in the classroom every day, and for many of us not at all, talk to us what it's like, to be a teacher during COVID.
Very challenging. I'm not in the classroom right now because I am on sabbatical for National Teacher of the Year. But in the springtime, I can't say that there was ever a more challenging time in my career. A lot of people are saying it's sort of like being back at square one, back as a first year teacher. We're having to relearn and readapt practices that we have known to work. And I think that's what's really challenging. We are actually having to redo things that we know serve students well. Usually when we adapt, it's to do something that serves students better than the old practice, right? It's because something was wrong. But we were doing lots of things right already in the school system, and to have to change those up when we know it's maybe not best practice is not only hard to implement, but I think it's hard for our hearts to know that we maybe aren't able to provide the same level of services that we were before. And I know that educators right now, all of my friends are teachers. I think that's just how life panned out for me. It's where I spend my most of my time. And they're really struggling right now. They're struggling to balance this new workload, and they're struggling to know that they're doing what's best for kids.
So when you were in the classroom in the spring and you have young people, and a number of high school teachers say it's tough getting high school students to do their work or to be active. You're dealing with young students. Talk to us particularly about what that's like or what it was like for you in the spring semester.
So I think engaging young children remotely is really difficult. So my first piece of advice is, if you're working one-on-one with a student, what I learned was that you cannot be afraid to be a fool behind the camera. I have always said that teaching is 90% theater. You may have heard me say this before if you followed me at all, but it's even more true when you're behind a camera. You have to be the most engaging thing that child could be looking at right then. And you feel kind of silly because young children are often accompanied by an adult, which changes your audience a little bit, but don't let that sway you. I think most adults that are nearby would be impressed by the level of dedication that you are putting forth for their children. You have to really be super interesting, and whether that be with props or changing things up with movement or your tone of voice, those are really things that work well for young learners. But also, I would say a huge piece of what was important for me in the spring was family coaching. And so we suddenly went from this place where I was providing most of the direct instruction to this family coaching model. So they were sort of serving as surrogate teacher, and they're their child's first teacher and most important teacher, I would argue. So they have the knowledge that they need of their child to be able to do that. They just needed some assistance with the technique.
Absolutely. So you're out of the classroom on sabbatical this year for a very important reason. So most of us may never have an opportunity to meet our teacher there or someone who's even going a little higher than that. So without me spoiling some of it, talk to us about the day someone said, I think we're going to recommend you for A, to you hearing your name announced at a really big event in DC when they said you had won B.
Okay, well, it's a really funny story. I was at the eye doctor and here in my town in Winfield, Kansas, and I got a text message from my boss. And she said, "Hey, can you meet with me? I have something I need to talk to you about." And this was after school, so I thought, "Oh my gosh, has a parent complained or something gone wrong at school? This is very," like, I was starting to panic, and so I texted her back, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Yeah, it's fine. I just have something I want to talk to you about." So in our district, the nominations for Regional Teacher of the Year are administrator led. And so the administrators agree on one elementary educator and one secondary educator to nominate to go to the regional competition. And every year, we're always hoping it's coming from preschool, but it talks with the administrators and the Board of Education and the superintendent and what they've noticed. So we met in the parking lot of the rec center, and she teared up and said, "I just couldn't wait any longer to tell you. We want to nominate you for Kansas Teacher of the Year. And here's this 26 pages of paperwork that you need to do in order to make it happen." And so, I cried too. It was so sweet. I honestly was just honored to be thought of and held in high regard by my district. And I went to the regional competition and ended up being named a semifinalist. And so 8 people in our state from across 4 regions were named. And then that was in the middle of September 2019. Then end of November, we went to the state competition. And so we had submitted a written application. And then for the state competition, we had to do a recorded keynote. They observed in our classroom. We had to do an interview on tape, and then people watched these videos from various educational organizations. And I ended up being named Kansas Teacher of the Year in November. And part of that journey was submitting an application to the National Teacher of the Year program to be considered for one of their finalists or National Teacher of the Year. Now, let it be known, I never even anticipated this kind of opportunity in my life. And I submitted my application to the CCSSO, the Council of Chief State School Officers, and I got a call early December, and it was from Washington, D.C., and I thought it was a political call because we're coming up on an election year. It was just one of those. So I just hit ignore and went about my day and would check the message later. But then I got a text message that said, "Hi, Tabatha, this is Teresa from CCSSO. We have some really good news for you. We hope you'll call us back." And so I thought, oh, I better call. And when I called, she said, "Are you sitting down? You probably know what this is about. You've been named a finalist for National Teacher of the Year." And I could not believe that, first of all, because I am a small town girl. The honor of Kansas Teacher of the Year had 2 weeks before just been given to me. And I never anticipated that as an early childhood educator, which often really, really has to fight for the same recognition as our K through 12 counterparts. And so after that, the process was, and you tell me if I'm getting too long-winded here, Gerard.
Oh, no, this is good.
The process was to go to Washington, D.C. with the other 3 finalists from across the country, and they were all secondary teachers, incredible secondary teachers. And we went to Washington, D.C. together, and in front of a panel of 17 judges representing various educational organizations across the country, we delivered a keynote, a 10-minute keynote. We also had some mock press interviews and how we would answer difficult questions. And we also did panel interviews with small groups of these judges. And we also did some real interviews with places like Politico and EdWeek. So it was this 2-day process. And so I went home feeling great about how I'd done. I was proud of myself, but I knew that any person who was named National Teacher of the Year would deserve it. They could not make a wrong decision. So the next day I had known they would call us with the decision regardless of who it was. The next day I was having breakfast with a friend, and then this was pre-pandemic, we were out at a restaurant, and I got into my car and I got another call from Washington, D.C. This time I did not hang up, because I knew that it was probably something important. And it was Teresa again, and she said, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "I actually am." She's like, "You've been named the 2020 National Teacher of the Year."
Wow.
And, she went on to tell me all the nice things the judges had said about me and wanted to know if I accepted, and gave me some time to think about it because it came with some big responsibilities. And I, of course, said yes right away. And that's where I am now. And it's been a whirlwind, especially because of the pandemic. And the process, just getting to be a part of it was incredible. Getting to connect with other state teachers of the year is just a dream. And now I'm here getting to be a voice for my students and for early education, for all the other things I feel passionate about. And I couldn't be more thankful.
Tell us a couple of things that you're doing right now in your role as National Teacher of the Year that most of us wouldn't know that a National Teacher of the Year would be doing.
Mhm. Well, I get to do lots of advocacy with groups of policymakers, state boards of education, people from the Department of Education. What's really great about being in this ambassador type of role is that I get access to these audiences. I really get to be a voice for the teachers who are doing the work at the ground level. And I often say, I'm not the best teacher in this country. I'm not even the best teacher in my school, but I'm a representative of what is good and wonderful about education. And I get to be this conduit for the love and the excitement and the engagement that teachers bring to our students' lives. And because of that, I definitely have had incredible opportunities, like sharing stage with people like Ibram Kendi and Joe Biden, and coming up soon, some really exciting civil rights activists. And I can't believe that I'm getting those same kind of audiences, the small town Kansas preschool teacher, getting to be a representative of so many others.
Well, I'm definitely proud to have you as my National Teacher of the Year. I know the people of Kansas and your students and families are equally well. It's always good to see, as someone say, a hometown girl
Yeah.
do well. And it's also good to have somebody from the middle of the country. Often politically, we call it the flyover country. But
Yeah.
having had a chance to be in Kansas last year, met some great people. So, Tabitha, first of all, again, congratulations. Number two, thank you for joining me for a conversation in character. Know that we here at the Foundation for Advanced Studies and Culture is here to support your work. And if there's some way that we can be an asset to what you're doing, let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gerard.
Take care.